Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special episode of Fourth and Frames. I'm Rhett Manuel with my co-host Drew Scott, where tonight we welcome a special guest to a Fantasy Frames very own Tyler Heyer from Dynasty 365 and our producer extraordinaire Gator J to give you our guys for the 2023 fantasy football season. Fantasy and Frames, let's get it popping. All right, so now allow me to introduce those two guys we just talked about over Fantasy and Frames. One of them is our spreadsheet guru. The other is the GOAT behind the board. Both are here to give you some incredible expertise that you'll find in the fantasy space. And on top of that, you can't find two more down-to-earth guys anywhere in the world. Fantasy and Frames own Dynasty 365's Tyler Heil, and the man behind the curtain for Fantasy and Frames, Gator J. Tyler, what's going on tonight, dude?
Not much, man. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to throw my guys out there. I've kind of been on the train for these guys for like 6 months, so I had to plant the flag and put this in stone somewhere. So I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm excited to do it.
Dude, we're so happy to have you. And Gator, you've spent all this time behind the scenes. You're in front of the camera tonight, bro. You better bring it.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a little exciting. It's being on with you two, and then of course bringing Tyler on. It kind of made me nervous, but hey, it is what it is. I'm ready to go. Like Tyler, though, I mean, I've been touting my couple guys that I am on in every draft, especially at their price points, and I'm excited to finally be able to just put it out there, plant my flag, be done for the 2023 year. I can take these guys, and I'm hopefully going to be having multiple belts hanging over my shoulder at the end of the year.
And personally, for me, I'm kind of looking forward to touting my guys as well, and maybe even embarrassing myself a bit. Drew, how you feeling about your guys tonight, bud?
Oh, I always feel good about my guys, man. I wish that we were going deeper than what we are. I want to go like 3, 4, 5, 6 guys deep, but I'll settle for whatever time we have. I feel like a true fantasy football analyst now because I'm taking part in the My Guys episode. I've been seeing all this stuff on the internet. I feel like it never really happens until you put a My Guys episode out there. So I've arrived now.
Mock drafts and My Guys episodes are apparently the two hallmarks of a true fantasy football podcast. So congratulations, Drew. We've arrived tonight, buddy, and I feel great about it.
Yeah, we're not doing a mock draft tonight, though, right? We're not doing a mock. It's just the My Guys part, right? Just making sure, because I didn't prep for the My Guys. All right, I didn't prep for the mock.
Me either, but if we were going to roll the dice and have some fun, that would be the way to do it. But we're not going to do that tonight. It's only a My Guys episode. So for all of our viewers who are over on Twitter and Facebook, if you guys want to ask some questions, get some questions in, we'll be over on YouTube. You're free to do that with us over there tonight. But I want to start off by going around the frames as we usually do with a very significant piece of injury news. If you've been living under a rock, you may not have heard that Travis Kelce hyperextended his knee in practice and is questionable for tomorrow night's season opener against the Detroit Lions. So I wanted to go around the frames and ask you guys your personal opinions. And let's start with Tyler. Tyler, if Travis Kelce can't go, is Noah Gray worth the ad from the Kansas City Chiefs tomorrow night?
Short answer, no. I mean, if you're in best ball, I'd throw him on the back of my roster and see what happened. I wouldn't feel comfortable putting Noah Gray out there. There's no comparison, right? Travis Kelce is already a Hall of Famer. He's one of the best tight ends to ever play the game of football. I'm not just throwing Noah Gray out there because he's going to fill the Travis Kelce role. No, Mahomes is going to spread it around to the wide receivers, going to throw it to Jerick McKinnon. So, no, I'm not going crazy over Noah Gray.
Gator, is there anybody on the wire that you might see in week one that might even be worth that time in filling that tight end gap if you're a Kelce guy and he's on your roster?
I mean, it's the tight end position, right? We saw it last year. It's tight end 15 is the same as tight end 4. Just depends on what week they both play. right? It's so out there. Like there's 2 or 3 tight ends that you're a plug and play, Kelsey being one of them. And so if you drafted a few weeks ago or whatnot, or even this week, and you drafted Kelsey in that early round, if you didn't go ahead and grab a second tight end later, the one that I would be looking at would be, again, because of another injury, if he's out there, is Tyler Higbee. That would be somebody I'd be looking at just because of the Cooper Kupp issues. And he's going to be out. We know that he's out for week 1 at least, maybe week 2 as well. So Tyler Higbee would, if he's out there, would be the one I would be looking at. Possibly David Njoku if he's still there.
And this is also one of those spots where several weeks ago, Andrew Cooper was on and he was touting this yin yang tight end strategy where you have one stud and you have one possible up and comer on the other side of your roster who can possibly do that. So if you followed that draft strategy, you're probably in pretty good shape right now. But Drew, I want to finish it off and ask you, if Kelsey doesn't play, who's the go-to guy in Casey's lineup tomorrow night? That is not Patrick Mahomes.
You're gonna make me pick a Kansas City pass catcher?
I am.
Is he on the team?
Okay.
Let's find out. Is he on the team right now?
If I have to pick one, it was trending that Sky Moore was going to be one of the 2 guys playing in 2 wide receiver sets, and so I'm just looking for opportunity. I'm looking for snaps. Who's going to be out there with Mahomes the most? It sounds like Sky Moore is going to be one of those 2 guys along. I think MVS was the other guy, and MVS has enough snaps under his belt with Hall of Fame quarterbacks that I don't need to try to believe that anything's going to happen with that. It didn't happen with Rodgers. It hasn't happened with Mahomes. Sky Moore, there's still a little bit of hope there that, he's going to come along in his second year. So if this just means more opportunity, that would be the pass catcher that I would want. But I agree with Tyler. I think that Mahomes is just going to pass the ball around. I don't think he has to zone in on a particular guy with Kelsey not out there.
Yeah, I think there's something interesting, though. If you watch the preseason, Sky Moore did not play a ton of the preseason with the ones. In fact, he didn't play a ton of the preseason at all. That tells me that he's locked in as that number 2, possibly number 3 at worst.
All reports so far would back that up. So good news is we don't have to wait very long to find out.
Yeah, that's happening. When is that happening? That's happening
tomorrow. 24 hours.
Yeah. Watching the game at this point tomorrow.
We will. Yeah, so it won't be much longer to find out.
As Stacy said, make sure you leave wings and beer out for Santa tonight.
That's right.
That's good. That's good. I like that. I finally will actually get to enjoy being Santa.
You get
any kids listening.
You're getting presents. You get a present. You get a present. You get a present. Everybody gets a present.
So we're playing Oprah with wings and beer, and I love that. So guys, look, speaking of, guys, it is week 1. It's time. Kansas City Chiefs, Detroit Lions kick off tomorrow night. We start week 1 of the NFL season. The regular season is finally here. And who better than to kick off week 1 of the NFL season than the boss man himself, Jorge Edwards? What is up? What's going on? You dropped in with us tonight, man. How you feeling?
I'm feeling a little bit better right now. We'll see how long that lasts. But while I'm feeling better, I just wanted to drop in and participate with this. I haven't been on the show, I think, with you guys since May. So it's been a minute. And it's definitely good to see everybody. I do want to go back for a second. You were talking about which pass catcher you're looking at for Kansas City now that Kelsey might be out potentially. Why not go to the tried and true Jerick McKinnon? I mean, that's kind of who he was leaning on towards down the stretch last season. I know he's not a prototypical pass catcher like a receiver or tight end, but he was getting a lot of receptions, splitting work with Isaiah Pacheco. There's no reason to think that they may not go down that well and utilize him in the passing game also.
No, I could definitely see that. And I love Jerick McKinnon. I was just thinking more so like it sounds like Pacheco's healthy and going to play, so he's going to be sharing a decent amount of snaps. And from what I've heard so far, it sounds like Scott Moore's going to be out there a ton. So it's more so just trying to bet on opportunity than anything. Sure, but I do love McKinnon's role in that offense, and I've always had a soft spot for him too. I think so. I don't mind that pick at all.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be. I'm excited just as much as you all. Gator, I was talking to you last week right before I had my surgery. He's like, well, Jorge, you got to have your surgery now. And I'm like, well, why is that? Because you got to be all in for week 1, baby. So it's great to be back on the show and just hanging out with you guys and hanging out with all the people who are watching on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and everywhere.
Yeah, man, it's true. And we're happy to have you. Glad to see the recovery is going well, that you're in good spirits from that surgery. So while you're here, let's go ahead and get into it, guys. I mean, we're going to here tonight talking about my guys for the 2023 season. These are the flag plants. These are the tried and true guys. These are the guys that you can't talk us off of, even if you wanted to, and even if you tried your hardest. These are the ones we're going with. So let's just go ahead, and I'm going to ask, because we know he's ready for it. Tyler, go ahead and give us your first my guy for the 2023 season.
Oh, I am very ready. My first my guy is Devonta Smith. I have been talking about Devonta Smith for months now. Let me give a little disclaimer. This is not a negative AJ Brown take. This is a pro Devonta Smith take. So I am not throwing any shade at AJ Brown. That being said, last season was the first time since his rookie year AJ Brown actually played a full year. Devonta Smith hasn't missed a game in his NFL career. He hasn't missed a game in his college career. Regardless of his Slim Reaper title and his build, he has been extremely durable. So I am not super concerned there. He was the wide receiver 10 last year, while AJ Brown was the wide receiver 5. No, it was 4. I don't see why those two cannot flip this year. Devontae was extremely consistent. Even when Dallas Goedert missed 5 games in the middle of the season, his median targets per game with Goedert in the lineup were 8. His median targets per game without Goedert in the lineup were 8. So he is always targeted. He did not benefit in any way from Goedert being out. So his finish was not false and it was not inflated. He caught 70% of his targets last year, and he still managed 12.6 yards per reception on well over 100 targets. So AJ Brown's going to be the focus for a lot of defenses this year. He was the killer last year. He was the big play guy. He had 17 yards per reception. So you're going to see a lot of coverage rolled his way, and Devonta Smith is going to benefit greatly from that. I love the price tag right now. Devonta Smith at wide receiver 13. That's 3 spots lower than he finished at last year. And there is no reason to not assume that the only wide receiver in something like 20 years to win the Heisman Trophy isn't going to continue to develop into his 3rd year in the NFL. So I will go ahead and call it now, plant my flag. AJ Brown might finish as a top 10 wide receiver in fantasy next year, or this year, I guess. There's nothing saying that he won't. I think Devonta Smith can finish higher than him this year, and that will flip on the head. So Devonta Smith is my guy for 2023.
First off, that is a spicy take, considering I'm planning on going the AJ Brown direction a little bit later in the show. Spoiler alert. So we're in direct conflict right now, and I'm ready to give you my case as well. But I saw Drew nodding approvingly at a Devonta Smith case. Do you agree with Tyler? Like, what is the ceiling on Devonta Smith in terms of wide receiver finish this season, in your opinion?
I think another wide receiver 1 finish as well within his bag. The thing for me that I like the Eagles pass catchers in general is just because what if with a tougher schedule this year and more competitive games that they just simply throw the ball more? Like they got to kind of just check out of a lot of games in the second half last year and just, mosey on to the finish line. What if the games are closer down the stretch this year and they actually have to throw a little bit more? It's more volume to go around for everybody. And Devonta Smith is a really good player. Like he's just a really good wide receiver. He's going to earn targets. He's going to get open. And so if there's more volume to go around, I think that's well within the realm of possibilities for him. So I like both of the Eagles' top pass catching options this year.
And look, I really do agree with that. I mean, they both are really going at value to where they can potentially finish. I think AJ Brown's ceiling is probably a little bit higher than where he's going. And the same with Devonta Smith. So both of these guys, really loved him. Love Tyler's take. Love everything he said. I do agree that AJ Brown will get some coverage rolled his way as well. So it should be interesting to see how that plays out. And speaking of guys who are in offenses with a lot of weapons, boss man, Mr. Jorge Edwards, go ahead and plant your flag on your first my guy for this season.
So he's somebody that Chris Burns over on Dynasty 365, he did a profile on for Dynasty back in August, but I'm a huge fan of his for redraft this year, and that's Brandon Ayuk. Dove into his stats from last year, and I was just really impressed with how he played for the 49ers. What are some concerns with Ayuk coming into this year? Okay, well, Debo's back. Debo's apparently 100% healthy. Is he going to take away from the opportunities? I don't think so. I think they both can eat. And what really made me impressed with going back and look at Ayuk's stats is, we look at his, courtesy of fantasy points. You guys had Joe Dolan on it last month or 2 months ago. Shout out to him and his work they've been doing over there at Fantasy Points Data. No matter who was the quarterback, whether it was Lance, he's not there anymore. Whether it was Garoppolo, not there anymore. Most importantly, even when it was Purdy, he was the first option in the passing game, meaning the quarterback looked at him first out of any receiver, not George Kittle. The quarterbacks looked first, Ayuk. He was one in total receiving yards. First in points per game in either zone or man coverage situations. Was number one in NFL passer rating when targeted on the team. Number one in receiving yards per game. He's been getting better and better each year since his rookie year. He got that contract extension in free agents back in March during the free agency period. And Purdy has a connection with him. I think Debo, you drafted Debo for his upside this year, for his rushing upside, for his receiving upside, for all that he does, right? But there is, unfortunately, the potential, given his skill set and how they use him, that he might miss some time. We're not here to play the injury projection game. That's not how you do it. But the potential is there. There's higher risk for him than there is for just a pure wide receiver like Ayuk. So I could definitely see Ayuk taking that next step. Ayuk, I believe, in half PPR scoring, and you'll have to check me, was top 25 in PPR scoring. I believe he was as a wide receiver. So I think he's going to take that next step. Brock Purdy's going to take that next step. We already heard, especially going into this week, that George Kittle is dealing with some type of injury, although he did return to practice. We're not going to know how limited he is going against Pittsburgh. So I don't see why Ayuk, regardless, of whether Kittle's there or if he's not there, he's going to get his looks. Debo will get the flashy plays, he'll get the splash plays, but don't rule out Ayuk, and definitely don't rule out Ayuk for the rest of the season.
Yeah, he was ranked 20.
He was ranked what, Gator?
23 last year in points per game.
Yeah, so definitely a fan.
Yeah, Brandon Ayuk is one of those guys that we've always seen the skill set. We've seen the potential. We know there were some Kyle Shanahan issues where he was in the doghouse last year. He seems to have dug himself out of that situation since then. But Tyler, I have to ask you right now concerning Brandon Ayuk and any 49ers pass catcher. Do you think a full season of Brock Purdy will affect them positively, negatively, or kind of keep things the same?
We saw Brock Purdy willing to take a lot more chances than Jimmy G would. And I think that if that benefits one singular person on the offense, it's going to be Brandon Ayuk. So I actually think getting that guy who's a little more of a gunslinger in there at quarterback and willing to get it down the field a little more is going to benefit Brandon Ayuk. So I'm on the same page as Jorge. I'm a big fan of Ayuk this year.
But though I do have to tell you one thing, there is only one gunslinger in my heart, and it is not Brock Purdy. It is the legend himself, the Wranglers wearer, the Mississippi mudslinger himself, Brett Favre. So with that said, let's go ahead and let's jump to Gator. He's going to go ahead and give us his first guy for the 2023 season. Spoiler alert, it may or may not be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Gator, what you got for us?
Yeah, this is absolutely going to come across as a homer pick, but it is Rachaad White. And when you look at what he did last year, he's definitely one of those players that came into the league. Everybody questioned it, or at least most people questioned it, because they had Leonard Fournette. But what he did at the end of the season has absolutely cemented himself as the RB1 in Tampa. When you look at 17 games, 129 attempts, 481 yards. but we play in PPR leagues most of the time. 50 receptions. He only had 58 targets, I believe it was. 50 receptions. And then you look at the last 8 games last year, 34 targets, 38 receptions. And that includes that one playoff game against Dallas. So you look at the last 9 games, there's only 3 of those games where he was under a 50% snap share with playoff Lenny on the team. Only one of those games did he not hit double digits in routes. The lowest was 13, highest of 30. You take the one game out of it, which was Atlanta, which they had secured the playoff spot. I think he had like 3 or 4 reception or 3 or 4 routes run in that game. Fantasy data has him projected at 738 yards rushing, 323 yards receiving. I've got him a little bit higher. Last year, Tampa had multiple injuries on that offensive line. They seem to be healthy, and as long as they stay healthy, they should be better. Baker Mayfield as the starting quarterback is going to not throw as much to Mike Evans down the field. So it's going to be a Chris Godwin, K. Dotton, and of course, Rachaad White getting the most of the targets. I have him projected right now at 1,080 yards, 400 receiving yards, and like 4 or 5 touchdowns, I think is what I have him projected at. So I'm going to plant my flag, and it is going to be Rachaad White. Yes, I know Sean Tucker's there, but we saw what Rachaad White did with a playoff caliber, Super Bowl winning running back in front of him. He's not sweating Sean Tucker. Sean Tucker is going to be a huge asset, but Rachaad White is definitely going to be the one that Tampa's going to rely on coming out of that backfield.
Yeah, and the thing about Rachaad White that I really happen to love is that you can get him at a pretty good value pretty much in any draft that you've gotten him in. I don't know if people are still drafting right now with the season starting tomorrow night, but he's been a guy that you've been able to get at a pretty good place. He's been a real solid 0 RB sort of guy in those situations. So, Drew, I have to tell you, I have to ask you, he mentioned your boy, and he mentioned that he doesn't feel like Sean Tucker is really much of a threat for Rachaad White. And I've got to tell you, I kind of agree with him. So, I mean, what is the ceiling for Rachaad White this season, in your opinion? And does Sean Tucker play a role in cutting into that role, barring injury?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, pretty much anybody that listens to the show knows that I like Sean Tucker quite a bit coming into the draft process. I had to temper expectations once his draft stock fell. And I fully believe it was just due to the heart issues, to the medical issues. But
What draft stock?
the draft stock he had early on, whenever he had a lot better of a profile than half the running backs that went on day 3.
He didn't go on day 3, did he?
No, he signed like day 7.
But he's getting. But the cool thing is he's getting paid better than like 90% of the day 3 running back. So I don't really care about the draft capital anymore, especially that day 3 draft capital. But no, I think Rachaad White is the clear running back. I mean, from what the reports are, Sean Tucker has won the backup job, but it sounds like he's like the legit backup to Rachaad White, early down backup, to where like if Rachaad White was to go down, Sean Tucker would handle the early work. I assume Chase Edmonds would probably handle the third down snaps, things like that. So I mean, he is purely just a handcuff. But look, whenever the heart issues and stuff came out, I didn't think he would even be able to get this good. So I'm just happy to see him carve a rollout, make a roster, running back 2. I think that's awesome. But I love Rachaad White's value. I think he's one of the best valued running backs in fantasy drafts right now. I took him in my home league a couple weeks ago in the 6th round and loved every minute of it. Like I love Rachaad White where he's going. And while I love Sean Tucker, I don't think that he is an immediate threat to Rachaad White's value. If Tampa starts to struggle, maybe they give him some more touches to see what they've got, to see if they have another answer at running back. But early in the season, he should be a very safe, very reliable running back that's going to get a ton of touches.
Look, agreed on all counts in that regard. But I have to tell you, I'm so happy for you because with Sean Tucker, we are back, baby, and it feels so good. And you're back on the floor right now. You're back on the stage, and you're going to give us your first guy for 2023 right this second. Speak on him, love on him, give us your heart, man.
As someone I love even more than Sean Tucker, believe it or not, that does exist. It's Lamar Jackson. Right now, he's being drafted as a QB4 in redraft. That's exactly where I've got him. But where I think I differentiate a little bit from consensus is where, while Lamar is typically a tier below the top 3 quarterbacks in redraft for most people, they got Mahomes, Allen, and Hurts, and kind of up there by themselves, and then Lamar mixed in with guys like Burrow, Fields, whoever you have in your next tier. I think Lamar belongs in that tier 1 of quarterbacks for redraft this year. Excuse me. In the 6 dynasty leagues, or in the 6 dynasty and redraft leagues that I'm in this year, he's my QB1 in half of them. So I'm kind of bought in for this year. We've already seen Lamar break fantasy once back in 2019. And at that time, his third leading receiver was a close battle between Hayden Hurst and Willie Snead. Now his third option is going to be one of Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, or Odell Beckham Jr., however the targets end up shaking out. But no matter how you shake it, this is the best group of pass catchers that he's played with in his entire career. So on top of the upgraded pass catchers, I'm sure we've all heard somebody talk about the upgrade that should come with Todd Monken at offensive coordinator. I feel like Todd Monken is like a buzzword this offseason at some point. I don't know how anybody hasn't heard his name, but I'm going to talk about it again. The improved tempo and the 3 wide receiver sets that should be coming not only will be good for Lamar as a passer, but that improved spacing from the 3 wide receiver set should also give him even more running lanes to work with. And something that I think gets lost with the whole, not bad for a running back crew that are still around with Lamar for some reason, is that the dude's actually a really good passer as well. Like prior to the beginning of the 2022 season on early down passing outside the numbers, Lamar was number 1 in yards per attempt, number 1 in success rate, and number 1 in expected points added per attempt. Like the dude can pass. He's going to be given the chance to pass. And now he has the best group of pass catchers to throw to he's had his entire career. I've got Rashad Bateman in like 4 leagues. I've got Mark Andrews in a couple leagues. I think me personally, I think those are going to be the top 2 options, but I like the group of pass catchers he has. So, I mean, if I'm going to like his pass catcher so much, it makes sense that I like the guy getting them the ball. So this year, Lamar's my guy, and he's my pick to win MVP this year as well. So I'm all in on Lamar for this year.
Man, do you have money on that Lamar pick? Let's ask the question.
Well, there's actually sportsbook betting coming to Kentucky in at the end of this month. So I don't know it'll be, I don't know what the MVP I'll look like by then, but I'll be throwing some money down.
Nice.
Yeah, sounds good, man. So do what you got to do. Hopefully you make a few dollars off of that. And hopefully with my first flag plant pick, my guy, I'm hopefully winning myself a little bit of fantasy money this year. Spoiler alert, you guys, it is Darren Waller.
Shocking.
You got to do what you got to do. He is my tight end 3 here for this season. And look, we're just going to go ahead. We're going to start off and saying that New York Giants offense only played 1 preseason game. I think they only played 1 drive in that 1 preseason game. And in that 1 drive, Darren Waller had 4 targets and 3 catches for 30 yards. So that tells me immediately, even though it is a very small sample size, that they are going to be looking for Darren Waller early and often. Daniel Jones has established that rapport with him. He's looked through him all throughout camp. In his career, he's had an 86.7% route participation, a 61.1% career catch rate, a 9.1% average depth of target in his career. So he's managed to get up the field throughout his career, and I don't expect that to change this year because despite everything New York did in the receivers room, Darren Waller was their marquee guy. And like I've said, they acquired him to be the East Coast Travis Kelce, in my opinion. I think he's going to be the focal point of that passing game. I think that is a safe bet to say that Saquon Barkley does have the attention of defenses, and I think that Darren Waller has the trust of Daniel Jones, like I said. For me, I believe he's probably a candidate for somewhere around 110 targets this season. I get health as a factor with him, but like Jorge said earlier, we do not play the guess on the health game. We play on projections. We play on what we think guys can do. And I think that with the Giants vacating 127 targets this year, and I think they might move away from that 52-48 run the pass that they had this year and pass the ball a little bit more because of that improved offense. I think you could see a guy that has smash upside that is going to outperform his current ADP that he had. My predictions for him this year are probably somewhere around 120 targets, 75 receptions, around 800 yards. And I'm going to go ahead and say he's going to be the red zone guy and get around 8 receiving touchdowns in a half PPR format. Last season, that would have put him at 168 fantasy points and had him finish at tight end 4 last season. Personally, in my opinion, I think he's going to outperform George Kittle. I think TJ Hawkinson takes a step back with Jordan Addison. I think Evan Ingram takes a step back because of the Calvin Ridley addition. Only guys I'm really taking over Darren Waller this season are Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews. So put it on the board, mark it down. Darren Waller, shocker, is my guy for 2023. And I would love to hear. Tyler, do you have a rebuttal for this? Are you going to try to strike me down tonight or what?
Listen, I am not going to try to strike you down here. Like, when Darren Waller is on the field, he's really good. But he's hurt me one too many times. I am a jilted lover, and I will not touch Darren Waller because I can't trust him to be on the field.
Okay, so we got a question here from JJ. Got Hayden Wing says David Montgomery over Dobbins this week. He wants to know if anybody would agree. I do. I 100% agree Montgomery over Dobbins. What about you, Tyler?
I would have Montgomery over Dobbins. I don't trust. I need to see Dobbins on the field. I need to see what's going on before I can put him in the lineup.
Yeah, this is a hard one for me because I want to go Dobbins here. But the reason being is I do believe that Gibbs is going to be such a big factor in the running, not only the running game, but also the receiving game. But I think at this point, we have to see what Dobbins is going to be in that Ravens offense with Todd Monken, with Lamar. You know, Drew was talking about it a minute ago. You have a great receiving core. The one person he didn't talk about was Flowers, right? Zay Flowers is there as well. So keep that in mind. I mean, I don't know what Dobbins is going to be with the injury. I would have to go Montgomery over Dobbins this week just so he could do it on the field. Prove me wrong on the field, and I will take Dobbins every time.
Are you, Drew?
I've got Dobbins over Montgomery, and for Gibbs is a big piece of that. Like, there's nobody in Baltimore's backfield with Dobbins anywhere near what Montgomery's dealing with Gibbs. I do get the appeal because no Chris Jones. That's going to be big, not only for Detroit's passing game, but for the running game as well. But no, I've seen enough from Dobbins at this point, even post-injury last year, and then obviously pre-injury his rookie year as well. The dude is a fantastic running back, and I talked a lot about Todd Monken from his passing offense, but his running backs have also performed really well whenever he's been an offensive coordinator. So I am pretty high on Dobbins this year, so I don't have as much of an issue taking a risk on him and putting him up. Spoiler alert: he's going to be an RB1 for me this week.
Oh.
Well, I mean, you brought up something there. I mean, I get the Chiefs and not having Chris Jones there, but do you think Dobbins can go into Houston comes to Baltimore? Do you think Dobbins can pull a King Henry against Houston and that defense?
Maybe not that level, but I do expect Baltimore to get up, and I do expect rushing opportunities to be aplenty for Dobbins. And so I think that there's the potential in playing Kansas City for the game script to fit Gibbs a little bit more than it might Montgomery, whereas the way I see the Houston-Baltimore game playing out, even though I think Houston will be more competitive than last year, I do still think Baltimore is a much better team, and I think the game script will favor Dobbins in that one as well.
Homer.
Stop it. He's not a homer for
of who? Of which one?
Jackson.
I am a Lamar Jackson fan, but the Ravens do not need to be good for Lamar to be good, so I don't really care about that.
Well, you mentioned Dobbins and how high you're having him ranked. Head over to fantasyandframes.com. Check out our weekly rankings. They've been updated initially today. They'll be ready to go tomorrow for Thursday Night Football. And make sure you check over the weekend, fantasyandframes.com, before kickoff and our pregame show on Sunday. But we got some more guys to talk about. Rhett, take it away, sir.
Yes, sir. Let's go ahead and let's go ahead and start. Tyler, let's go ahead and let us know your second guy. Who is he? What's he doing for us, man?
Oh, yeah. This is a easy one for me. I've been talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars offense for like 3 months. Frankly, I wouldn't shut up about them. I also invested in this guy in one of my Kings Classic leagues, but it's Christian Kirk. No, he's just criminally underrated right now. Last year, he finished with 133 targets, 84 receptions for 1,108 yards and 8 touchdowns. He was the wide receiver 11 last year. A lot of people say, but Calvin Ridley's going to be the wide receiver 1 in Jacksonville. To that, I say, so what? It doesn't matter. There are plenty of offenses that support 2 top 24 wide receivers. And there's no and if what I think is going to happen with the Jacksonville Jaguars, aka a top 5 offense this year, happens, there's no reason they can't support 2 as well. Just last year, if you look at it, the Buccaneers had wide receiver 16 and 19 in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. The Bengals had wide receiver 12 and 17 in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. The Eagles had wide receiver 5 and 10 in A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. The Dolphins had wide receiver 3 and 7 in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And Seahawks had wide receiver 13 and 18 in Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. And if you want to go a little further, if you want to extend to the top 30, the Bengals had a 3rd wide receiver in there. Tyler Boyd was wide receiver 30. The Jags actually had 2 because Zay Jones was wide receiver 26. Buffalo had 2. Stephon Diggs, wide receiver 4, and Gabe Davis, wide receiver 27. And New England had 2. I was stunned with this. Jacoby Myers was wide receiver 28 and Juju was wide receiver 29. I say all that to say, I don't care if Calvin Ridley is the wide receiver 1. I think he is the wide receiver 1. But if Christian Kirk is going at the wide receiver 29, that's absolute highway robbery when he was the wide receiver 11 last year. The wide receiver 29 last year was Juju. It was 78 receptions for 933 yards and 3 touchdowns. The wide receiver 2 on a top 5 offense is going to easily clear those numbers. So I'm not saying Christian Kirk's going to be the wide receiver 1, but Ridley already has his role bookmarked. Marvin Jones, 81 vacated targets. Zay Jones, 121 targets last year. That's going to drop by a little bit. Evan Ingram, 98 targets last year. That's going to drop down to more of a reasonable tight end level. So those are going to go to Calvin Ridley. Christian Kirk is just going to keep his work, 133 targets. So I am very high on Christian Kirk this year, especially at the price of wide receiver 29. He can very easily outperform that price, and he can probably do it by quite a bit. So give me Christian Kirk this year. I'm all about it.
I love it. Love the case you made. Love the fact that you said all these vacated targets. This is a great case you're making. Gator, you have another wide receiver you want to talk about. Let it fly. Let it go, man.
Yeah, so this won't be a homer take. This is actually a rival for my home team, but it's Chris Olave. I mean, when you look at what he did last year, 72 of 119, over 1,000 yards with 4 touchdowns, averaging 14 and a half yards per game. I'm sorry, yards per attempt, 13.2 fantasy points per game with Andy Dalton, Ian Book, and Taysom Hill at quarterback. And now you give him a stud like Derek Carr. Now, stop. Let me stop. Derek Carr is not a stud, but he is compared to those 3. That trio, and we talked about, the Garrett Wilson last year with the trio of quarterbacks that he had in New York. Olave wasn't far behind him, projecting for fantasy data in their PPR stats, 80 receptions, 1139, 6 touchdowns. I have him projected a little bit higher at 89 receptions, 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns, 15 games. Out of 15 games last year, only 2 of those games, Olave did not see more than 70% snap share. I know Michael Thomas is there. I don't care. Give me Chris Olave every chance you can. He's going to be a stud, especially in this offense with the way they're going to run it in New Orleans. That is my guy right there. I'm taking 2 NFC South guys. I'm surprised Tyler did not get him one of those Cleveland Brown wide receivers over top of the Christian Kirk pick there, but yeah, whatever. He didn't want to. He's still going to be a homer.
No, I will never buy into the Browns. I hate them.
Oh, we hate the Browns. We hate the Saints. We hate the Bucks. We hate everything around here. But Drew, there is somebody you love, and who is your second guy for 2023?
Yeah, to be honest, I was going to go with Bijan Robinson with this one, but I already gave a top quarterback. I don't want to go with the top of the line running back either, but just I think there's a good chance for.
Hold on, Drew. Hold on, Drew. Edward is on the clock right now. Should he take Herbert or Fields? Edward, I need to know, first of all, is it a
4-point or 6-point passing touchdown league?
Yep. Is it a super flex? And who is your other quarter? Or, well, I guess it's the first round. So you're on the
super
clock.
flex won't matter, but I would like to know if it's 4-point. If it's 4-point passing touchdown, I would go Fields. If it's 6-point, that makes it a little bit more tough because I do think Herbert's in for a big passing touchdown year, so that would make it closer. But if it's 4-point, it's Fields for me.
Now, Edward, now, come on, we need the answers. 6 points. All right, so you're leaning Herbert there.
That makes it much more difficult. Yeah, I would probably. Oh my God, I would probably go Herbert, but it literally is like a coin flip at that point.
Did you not see that 2-yard pass that he threw to DJ Moore for 75 yards?
You mean the inaccurate? You mean the inaccurate 2-yard pass?
Yeah. Go Herbert. I take back.
I don't want to crap on Fields because I like Fields and I think that he will take a step forward. But Herbert is just such an incredible passer, and I don't think every single receiver he has is going to get injured this year, and I don't think he's going to get broken ribs this year. And they got an upgraded OC. So,
well, most importantly, Herbert has receivers versus Fields has a receiver.
Yeah. The answer is Herbert. Tyler, answer Herbert.
Herbert.
Okay.
Herbert.
Moving on. Yeah. All right, Drew, continue your take. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I was just gonna say I'm not gonna do Bijan right now, but I do think there's a pretty decent chance that next year we're all talking about like, yeah, Bijan's the 101 this year. So just for what that's worth, but it's a different running back I want to talk about. He's currently the running back 35 right now. He's going 3 spots behind his teammate, and that is Antonio Gibson. So I've got him at running back 25 across the 6 total dynasty redraft leagues. I've got him on 4 of them. So I'm pretty bought in on Gibson at this point this year. So far through 3 years, he's finished as the RB13, RB12, and the RB27. I just said he's going as the RB35, so I don't really know. The math really just ain't mathing, but I'm not projecting an RB1 season for him. I think he finishes as an RB2, and he's not being drafted as such right now, so I've been taking him everywhere. Whenever Gibson was drafted by Washington in 2020, after essentially being a wide receiver at Memphis, they were just like, hey, we're going to take this receiving running back and we're going to turn him into a 2-down back. Made no sense to me, but he was also still really good at that too. And so now with no more J.D. McKissick to block him from passing down work, which I thought he should have been getting from the jump anyway, he should be able to better show off his true skill set. Washington also brought in Eric Bieniemy as their new OC this offseason from Kansas City. He just showed us what he could do with a running back with Gibson's skill set, with what Jerick McKinnon did down the stretch last year. I don't think the touchdown opportunities are going to be the same as they were for McKinnon because Washington's offense is not Kansas City's offense, but at least I have more hope that Gibson will finally be used in the correct manner. And I just personally think that Gibson is the better running back. Now, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities that Brian Robinson improves this year because there aren't a whole lot of analytics for how a guy bounces back after getting shot and missing games and coming back from that. We don't have a whole lot of data on that one, but I like Gibson. I think he's the more talented player. And I'm sorry, Jorge, I think that there should be plenty of game scripts where they will be trying to play catch up, and that will also fit Gibson more than it would Robinson. So I like his value a ton, especially in any type of PPR league. So as I've already said, I've got Gibson all over the place this year.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I love Antonio Gibson. Love the 3-down skills that he potentially has. Think there's a lot to offer there, and I'm not completely sold on Brian Robinson, but like you said, there's no precedent for what Brian Robinson went through and the bounce back in year 2. So it should be interesting. And there is another running back that Jorge wants to talk about that is also dealing with someone who is recovering from an injury themselves. So Jorge, who is your second guy for 2023?
So my guy is Samaje Perine. ESPN's Dan Graziani the other day came out and said that the Broncos expect Samaje Perine to be the leading back for a good chunk of the season. There is concern, obviously, with Javonte Williams coming back from his ACL. But the main thing that the Broncos want to see is that can he handle early down work? And so when doing some research on P. Ryan, we look at early down work. He was the RB. He was the RB 13 in yards created per attempt. When we look at juke rate, meaning being able to evade tacklers, he was more elusive than Saquon Barkley, Jerick McKinnon, Miles Sanders, Dalvin Cook, even Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he can handle the work. And when getting over 14 touches total, whether it's rushing and receiving combined, he was averaging in half PPR like over 13 points a game, and really came down. And that was with the Bengals offensive line that is atrocious. So now you put him in a situation in Denver. We know that Sean Payton likes to utilize these two running backs. Like, let's go back to the Ingram and Kamara days. No, I'm not saying that he's Mark Ingram. No, I'm saying he's definitely not Alvin Kamara. But I think you can make the Ingram comparisons. And so even if it's just goal line work, I think he has the ability. He definitely has the receiving chops to be a good player on your team. I have him this week currently as going into week 1 as my RB 23. I really am high on him this week going against Vegas. Vegas has great, pass rushers. Interior, different story. So interior defensive lineman, that is. So yeah, I'm all in on Samaje Perine this year, and especially going into week 1.
Yeah, Samaje Perine. Yeah, Samaje Perine offers an interesting skill set. We're not sure what Javonte Williams is going to be, like you previously stated. So, there are a lot of things that I really believe are going for him. And there was a question in the chat. And so really quickly, he wanted to ask in a 10-team PPR, his current QB is Deshaun Watson. Should he trade away Christian Kirk on his bench for Trevor Lawrence? Once again, to ask that question, I would think it would have to be, is this a super flex? What are your thoughts on it, Tyler?
If it's Christian Kirk straight up for Trevor Lawrence, absolutely not. If this is a 1 QB league, no. Wide receiver is far more valuable than quarterback in 1 QB.
Yeah, don't. Ian, if you can let us know if it's super flex or if it's just one quarterback. Either way, you take the floor with Deshaun, but you really, you want to hold on to the upside with Kirk, right? With Trevor Lawrence, what is the point per game average really going to be? Are we talking a point per game average during the season of 19 to 17? And if that's the case, that's not worth giving up what you could get with Christian Kirk's upside.
Yeah, I really do agree with everything these guys said. And so, speaking of receivers, we've talked about Christian Kirk. We've talked about Chris Olave. It is my turn, and I'm just going to go ahead and plant my flag like I talked about earlier. Let's talk about A.J. Brown, because we're going to raise our hands right now if a consolidated Eagles target share excites you. And let's be honest, yes, it does. And if it does things for you like it does for me, then hubba, A.J. Brown is your guy. So let's go ahead and talk about it. 88 catches last year, 17 yards per catch, as Tyler said, 11 touchdowns. He's been consistent throughout his career, no matter the quarterback. Even when he's been hurt in 4 seasons, he's had 3 1,000-yard years. And the 1 year that he was significantly hurt, he still put up 900 yards. So this is a guy that is consistent across the board. Had almost 1,800 air yards last year, as well as being a yak monster, where I believe he had somewhere around 550 yards after the catch as well. So he gets it done on all levels of the field. And when they're in man coverage, which he will see a lot of with Devonta Smith on the other side, he was targeted on 37.7% of routes that he was in man coverage last year. That was number 1 in the league. And let's just ask you guys a question. He's my guy for more than one reason. Have you seen the guy? I mean, the man has muscles I've never even heard of, much less seen. A.J. Brown has A+ rhomboids. And I had to Google what a rhomboid was in order to get that in. So, guys, my second flag plant, and I agree with everything Tyler said about Devonta Smith having a great ceiling, but A.J. Brown is just one of these guys that I just can't deny at this point. He's too good. He's been too consistent, no matter the quarterback situation, no matter the offensive situation. I don't see a situation where that changes this year, and I have to put faith in that. But I would love Gator's feedback on that. So, Gator, let's ask the question: AJ Brown or Devontae Smith?
Oh no. Okay. So at their price point, I'm taking Devontae Smith.
But who do you have more faith in this year? Who's your guy?
Devontae Smith.
Okay.
I just feel like what he's done. Don't get me wrong. I'm super excited to see what AJ Brown's going to do yet again in that, another year in that offense, because I truly trust him. But I just can't see spending that draft capital to go get AJ Brown, whether it be, drafting or in a trade. It's just going to cost too much, and you can get Devontae Smith way less and get the same production.
I don't know. I'm with my brother in frames. I'm going to go with Rhett here and be pro AJ Brown. I'm down with that flag plant.
You both can be wrong, and me and Tyler will sit on our hill and look down upon you the rest of the year.
What about Drew? Drew, what do you, AJ Brown or Devonta Smith?
No. Stop trying to get people on your side. Quit trying to
play
or a.
He's the tiebreaker right here. It's you two versus us.
Okay, Drew, choose a side and choose it wisely.
I'll be one for one if I don't have to worry about draft costs, anything like that. I have AJ Brown ranked higher than Devontae Smith. So if I had to pick which one was going to finish higher, I think it's AJ Brown. But that's that's ignoring a lot of different factors that you have to decide on draft day. But I think AJ Brown will be the wide receiver 1 for the Philadelphia Eagles.
It was the Romboids argument. I knew it all along. But anyway.
Yeah, that was it. I actually went into my rankings and moved him up once you said that. So, yeah.
We got one more thing, one more comment or question before we.
Yeah, so he just drafted a 12-man PPR and wanted to know what we thought. He drafted Patrick Mahomes, Keenan Allen, Calvin Ridley, Michael Thomas, Christian McCaffrey, Cam Akers, Tyler Higbee, Javonte Williams, and Jonathan Taylor. Currently the black sheep of fantasy football. So, guys, what are our thoughts on this team?
I actually like the fact that he waited. I'm assuming he waited to get Jay Will and Jonathan Taylor. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like, those are, if he was able to get them at value, like in rounds 4 or 5 or 5 or 6 or even beyond, I think that's a potential steal, especially if Jonathan Taylor comes back healthy after 4 games. You know what I mean?
And there's no way that he drafted him in this order. There can't be, right? You didn't draft.
No, I mean, if this is a 1 quarterback league, just thinking about ADP, he probably so he has McCaffrey, so that means he probably had like a top 3 pick. He probably went McCaffrey and then Mahomes and Keenan Allen at the turn, and then probably Akers and one of like JT or Javonte at the next turn.
Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sorry, it was Calvin Ridley and Keenan.
Yeah.
So it was probably Mahomes and Calvin Ridley at the turn there, because I think Ridley's kind of went up in ADP recently, and then probably Keenan Allen and one of those running backs at the next turn. So not in order necessarily. This is a very, very high risk, high reward team for sure. Like, I mean, Mahomes is plug and play. He's safe. McCaffrey's plug and play. I love Keenan Allen this year. He was my must draft for the Chargers in our divisional preview for them. I just did a redraft target profile on Akers. I am a Rams fan, so I've got some rose-colored glasses on that. Higbee as well. I think Higbee is safe. I mean, he's not gonna give you a ton of upside at tight end, but you've got enough risky options. I think that it's not terrible to go safe there at tight end. But if Javonte can deliver, like if he really is just this like freak athlete that has recovered from this injury that took Dobbins like 3/4 of the year to recover from, and then if Jonathan Taylor misses 4 weeks and comes back, you've got a loaded roster. There's a ton of risk built into that, but a ton of upside as well. But you play to win the game. And that's what this dude did. He took some risk, but if the risk pays off, he's going to be cashing in. So I don't mind it at all. I think it's a really interesting team.
Yeah, I agree. It's a really high risk, high reward team. You could be in some money, or you could be drafting really highly next year. We'll see where it goes. But overall, those are our guys for the 2023 season. And to recap that really quickly, Tyler had Devontae Smith and Christian Kirk. Gator had Rashad White and Chris Olave. Drew had Lamar Jackson and Antonio Gibson. I had Darren Waller and AJ Brown. And Jorge had Brandon Ayuk and Samaje Perine. So, guys, we're going to go ahead and we're going to wrap things up. But let's go ahead and do what we always do. The frame is yours. Let's go around the frames. Tyler, Jorge, then Gator, do you guys have anything going on inside or outside the fantasy realm right now that you want to plug a little bit?
Oh, you got to listen to Dynasty 365, man. It's the first show on the Fantasy and Frames Podcast Network Wednesday night gamut. So, yeah, jump on there, listen to 365, hop on Fourth and Frames, and make sure you're checking out all of the Fantasy and Frames Fantasy Pros rankers for weekly rankings and season-long rankings over at Fantasy Pros.
Yep, and you can also find our rankings over at fantasyandframes.com as well as Fantasy Pros. You can catch me on Shoot the Gap IDP, which is right after this show, which if you're in our YouTube chat, they're telling us to get off the screen because people want their IDP. So make it short and sweet. Slowpokes are calling us. Thank you, Hollywood Titan. I'm doing the IDP waiver wire article this year and jumping on wherever I need to jump on, and just proud of everybody here at Fantasy and Frames, and really excited that we're all going to be providing you all with great fantasy football content to help win your leagues and have fun. Really excited for the pregame show. We can start that off this week, 9 a.m., 12 p.m., all morning long, every single game, every single relevant fantasy player on offense and defense. Plus, we're going to teach you some cool tailgating recipes with Courtney in our tailgating and frame section, so that by the time you start the pregame show, put your stuff in the oven, listen to the pregame show, take it out of the oven, eat, enjoy football. What more could you ask for? That's what's going on.
Yeah, I was going to add that in there, but I mean, since the boss man on legal drugs decided to take all of what I have to say, it's all good, Jorge. I can't wait for Sunday 9 to 12. It's going to be a phenomenal show.
Gator will be leading us. He'll be the host of the show. Looking forward to that.
We are going to be like Jorge said. We're going to be hitting all the games, giving you some IDP stuff. We got Nate going to be on there. Jonathan's going to join us. We're going to have the whole Courtney segment. It's going to be phenomenal. I've seen what she's cooking up this week, and I'm actually going to probably do that recipe tomorrow so that I can get the family fed right before and just leave them alone. It takes like 20 minutes to do the whole damn thing. I'm so excited for that. But we do got to get it going. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to Sunday.
Nice. And folks out there, don't forget, if you liked what you heard today, like the stream, subscribe to the channel, ring that notification bell so that way you can be notified every time Fantasy and Frames drops content on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at Fantasy and Frames. If you're listening to this on podcast form, please rate and review. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. Read all of our articles as well as see all of our up-to-date rankings. We got award-winning rankings from Fantasy Pros the past couple seasons. We know what we're talking about, and we can't wait to help you get those victories each and every week.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So with that, guys, we will see you guys next Wednesday. Fantasy and Frames. I'm Rhett Manuel for Drew Scott, Tyler Howe, Jorge Edwards, and Gator J. We out. Y'all have a blessed night.